Games, board games. We might be talking about running in clubs and demoing, but we're not gonna shout. This is my friend Chantal Tweetiti, who is going to chat to me about her experience at conventions, you see, like UKGE and the other things they've been at. They've been around the world quite a few places, and we'll talk about stuff and bringing games into different spaces. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. is UK time for Busy Beats and
Hello.
Board Game Blether. How are you today, Chantal?
I'm okay. Yeah, sure.
And what we're talking about today is running groups, communities, and just sharing the joy of games. We knew each other in London, so a bit of context for people watching. And we also met up in Cannes, which was lovely. I think
Yeah,
it was 2020.
just before COVID. Yeah.
Was it
No, it was
2020?
just before all the COVID malarkey. Yeah,
So it was the same year. It was 2020 in February.
yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I've not been back there, but it was a lovely
me
year.
either.
I mean,
It
well,
was.
at least those 2 months were lovely. The third month and up to the 12th month, not so much. But, the first 2 months of that year were wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was, and it was very hot in at the time. It was lovely. Yeah,
I mean, I would consider it very
for February.
mild and, pleasantly warm.
Yeah.
Wasn't so very hot. But have you been back there at all? What and how do you go to many conventions? What would you like people to know about you as a gamer?
Yeah, I went to a lot of conventions. Last year, I went for the first time to Spiel. About time. We met there. I only went for a day though, and I must say, a day is not enough. It's huge.
Mm-mm. I mean, you can't really take it all in just one
No,
day. I mean, why
no.
did you go for? Could you not manage to?
I combined it with another event. So basically, I had a weekend board game in Hamburg,
Mm-mm.
where a few, like about 30 of us, we booked a Airbnb in Hamburg, and we just played board games the entire weekend. And that was Friday to Sunday, on Monday morning, and but it was on the same weekend that Spiel. So I combined it. I went Thursday to Spiel with one of my friends. We drove there, and then the next day we went to Hamburg. So it
I
was
mean,
a full-on board game weekend.
at least that way. I mean, first at Spiel, it is a little bit quieter. So I think Friday and Saturday are the busier days. And I'm not saying it's quiet because obviously there's these hardcore gamers that come and then they want to play all the new things. But I think Friday is even busier. And so it
Yeah,
was probably a good day to pick if you're just doing one thing because then you've got a little bit more chance of playing the games you want to play.
yeah. I could only focus on one hole. There was I barely saw the others. Just went through. Yeah,
I mean, there's so much going on,
yeah.
but let's take a step back and
Mhm.
talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. What have been some of the games that you have played recently?
Uh, Recently, I've played a lot of Azul because I am a big Azul fan. I have all of them, plus the extension, plus it's weird. And I have a friend in the Netherlands where I live who also makes games, and he recently discovered Azul, playing it through Board Game Arena, and I mentioned that I had them all, so he wanted to play them all. So that's the last games I've played actually. So I'm slowly introducing him to all the Azuls, and I'm also writing articles on LinkedIn about all the Azuls in the,
wow.
the same time.
You have played everything available in the Azul family, is that correct?
Yes.
And
yes.
do you feel like there is a clear favorite for you? Do you feel like
Yeah.
the original is still the best, or
Well, the original is always the one, especially now there's a chocolate edition. It's really good. And there's also a mini version now that you can bring in your suitcase. It's really tiny. It's really good. It's cool. However, my favorite one, I would say, is the third one because it's
was that
okay.
Queen's Garden?
No, Queen's Garden is the fourth one, the latest.
Okay.
The third one is Summer Pavilion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it has elements of the first one and the second one, but I think it's quite clever. It's still an Azul, but it's I don't know. I think that's my favorite. The last one, the fourth one, is very detached from any other Azuls. The garden one. It's so I think it's the best one. It's the most enjoyable one, I believe. The first Azul is really good, but I've played it so much that
So
I
for
like a
those
break.
who don't know Summer Pavilion, I'm going to show some quick things up. And how would you describe it? Like if you had to give a quick 30-second explanation of how it plays.
It plays like the first Azul, but it is limited to 6 rounds, and it has an extra dimension where you have you first pick up the tiles, but then in a second part you place them. It's not a quick I grab and I already placed them. Yeah. So it's quite interesting mechanism.
Yeah. So and all the things kind like stay on the board and then.
So no, first you pack the tiles and you put them aside. Then the board that you see here now, you placed the tiles in a second phase there. So it's not So it's and you have to
It's kind of like a game of two halves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've still not, even though I've read about them, I've still not played any of the Azuls except for the original. But I do think that there's something lovely there, and some people argue that similar to Splendor, which some of the joy is these big, chunky, physical things. In Azul, I've heard someone saying that if Azul had come out on Board Game Arena or something digitally before it became physical, it might not have been such a big success because the actual physical components and the joy of playing with these lovely tiles is a big part of the joy of the game, the table presence.
And actually, yes, I do agree. And actually, on the pavilion one, because you have the tiles on the side, you can sort of create little figures while you wait to put them in a. So it's like a little game in the game. It's very enjoyable. Yes.
Lovely. For those wondering about me, yesterday was Friday, of course. I went to the daytime playtesting. My phone is completely out of memory. I actually need to get an external hard drive for my laptop to take a bunch of stuff off my laptop, and then I can put all my phone photos onto my laptop and then clear my phone out of stuff. So then I will have space to take more photos. But yeah, I wasn't able to take any photos yesterday, but I just love Fridays. I love play testing with people. I love having this, okay, this is something that I get to do, and I don't feel guilty about it. I mean, there's been times in the past where, but I should really be doing this other thing, this illustration, but it's like one day a week. So, worst case scenario, if I really don't have the time, I will be making a game just that morning to get ready for it. And so I started off my day actually in trying to work out the previous night and did a way to upgrade my game from the previous week, which was an auction game that kept on going round with a bit of an economic thing, which was, hey, you are people who pass, you are allowed to put one of these tiles into the stock value. So you choose colors of tiles either to own them or to increase the value of them. So you could have a lot of tiles that are worth literally nothing. Conversely, you could have be focusing on increasing the value of what you have, but you also have to think about what other people might have. We played it twice last week. It was okay, it had some promise. And this week I completely changed it, so it's just once around. You place any number of cards, and then only the top card matters. So if you've got a special power, you can, with your special power, then you reveal it once everyone's placed how many cards they've got. So if you're bidding, the number of cards, that is your bid, and you lose all those cards. But if the top card is a special power, then instead of grabbing tiles, then you are either removing stuff, like just taking them out the game from what's being bid on and annoying other people, or you're increasing the value of stuff, or you're trashing the value of one thing. And that way, it felt like it was very interactive. We played it 3 times, twice with 4 players, once with 3, and people were enjoying it, which was lovely to see. I made teeny tiny tweaks, but I think it's in a good space where now I'm thinking about, maybe the cards could be this number of cards, and this might be something that UK Games Expo 2024, it might be there. But other than that, I also played my own deck construction game early in the morning with Alan Wallet. I played 2 of Colin's games. One was a memory, grabbing tiles, working out when to stop people, and one was flicking like golf, and it was just exactly what you'd expect. You're flicking things into the hole, and the entire joy of that was just from this amazing sculpture that had been created with actual hills, and so the ball would react really well to these. And at the end, I played 2 games from Alan Wallet. One is called Poser, where you're posing, and other people are trying to guess who you are posing as. But and everyone knows what you are posing as, kind of like Spyfall or Fake Artist in New York. But one person is the poser, and they don't know what's going on, so they kind of have to blend with everyone, if that makes sense. And we also played a speed game of Alan's, and then finally at the end of the day, we sometimes play a published game to wind down, and we play Geometric Art. After that, I managed to, I stayed in the National Theatre for a few hours and actually got some writing done for one of my games that I'm hoping to have at UK Games Expo 2023, which was well overdue, but I finally did it. So hopefully Jack can put it all together, and that is for Categorical, which I'm hoping, even if, I feel like we will probably sell the original LDEC typeface, but maybe not the Categorical one. It will be like, this is something that will be available in a month, but we'll be showing off the original typeface. So finally, people who love the LDEC will be able to buy it again, and I'm really excited about that. But that is my personal recent highlights for yesterday. Do you have any questions or comments about any of that?
No, but it reminds me, that's how we met, actually, because I participated in your demo sessions. So it just takes me back. It's really cool. Yeah.
Would you like to chat about anything? Like, do you have a topic that you think is a brilliant thing? It's a little thing which is brilliant. I mean, why is sharing the love of games, whether you're doing that through your games club or demoing for me at a convention, which you've done once before and you've agreed to do again this year. Why is sharing the joy of games a brilliant thing?
Because it's social and it's fun. And actually, I had a bit of depression in my life, and I grew out of things like, for example, reading, which is weird, but yeah. Or sometimes there was some films I couldn't see because it reminded me too much of stuff. But board games and is something. I could speak to other people, take my mind away from it, and plus it's fun. You need to think at the same time. It really occupies my mind in a very enjoyable way. I think that's why I love it so much. Yeah.
So, I mean, why do you love not just playing the games, but then spreading that? Because you're
Yeah.
not just someone who's content to go to the games club and go to the convention. You're
Hmm.
actually starting your own games club and
Yes.
you're doing demonstrating yourself. And so what's the added appeal of kind of sharing that with others, if you know what I mean?
I think the teaching aspect is nice because the way I organize it, I don't ask anyone to look at the manual before or anything. I teach the game, um, and yeah, that's something I learned in France when I had to go back to France from the UK, and where all my problems happened. I found this club that was doing that. Actually, they were teaching, they were organizing events, and they were teaching how to demonstrate games, how to how to present, how to demonstrate, how to teach, and it just and I could see that it was something that was possible to do, to be even sort of paid for it. If you're lucky, some cafes are happy for you to pay for an evening or something like that, like the same way there's quiz nights and stuff like
Mm, mm,
that.
mm, mm, mm.
And it really, I think it saved me from going crazy, and
Wow.
I absolutely loved it. It was an eye opener for me.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, let's do some back and forth of why it's brilliant, because one of the things that I think you've not quite said explicitly, but it feels like you're touching upon it, is that it does build confidence. I mean, for
Yes.
me, when I'm like, hey, I know this game 100%, I've taught it so
Hmm.
many times before, I've read through the rules, maybe I even invented the rules and I know
Hmm.
them perfectly, but now I can share that and I feel like it's making me feel good that I know this and it's making
Hmm.
me feel sort of like, hey, I can do this. I feel in confidence and a sense of achievement.
And yes, and it's also the joy of seeing other people enjoying it. It's
Mm,
that really makes me feel happy. It's just because I'm not teaching something boring, or I'm teaching something that people would enjoy and they will take with them, and then they will just probably play with other people as well, and spread the joy.
mm-mm.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's totally true. Like seeing all the smiling faces and then
Hmm.
kind of imagining not just what they're going to be saying right now, but later. And
Hmm.
hello, Jess. It's lovely to see you,
Hey.
and I hope that you're enjoying life. Um, and Jess says, yes, Jess is heading off to France. I'm sorry
Ah,
that I did not see you in Huddersfield, but I hope that you're generally well. Um, but yeah, sharing the spread of, and there's a question from chat: are you French,
yes.
Chantal?
Yes.
um, so I mean, yeah, normally I like to go back and forth until we run out of reasons why this thing is so brilliant. But I'm kind of, I think this is just the core of it. We are social animals as humans.
Hmm.
We love
Hmm.
interacting with each other. And I think that you and I feel are both extroverts somewhat, and
Yes.
so I think that sure, we could just go to the same club, but then going to, oh wow, there's so many people here, and getting to be the center of attention, and kind of, there's something fun about that, and meeting all these new people that you've never seen before, because
Mhm.
all these people will pass through. I mean, there's something fun about just meeting so many new people, not just the people that you expected.
Yes, yeah, and actually, when I demoed for you, I normally only demo to adults, but at UKGE, obviously there were kids, and that was a completely different interaction, but that was extremely fun as well. For example, there was one game that you have that where you need to produce sounds, and
Mhm.
the people need to find out which animals in the card it belongs to, and kids absolutely loved that game, and it was so it was so fulfilling to see how excited they were about it. And
Mhm.
as I said, it wasn't something I had an experience of before, so it was really good. Yes.
Well, unless you've got other reasons why you want to share why, I mean, there are other reasons why these things are brilliant, but I think we've touched the broad things. So I invite other people to say, like, do you enjoy teaching games? Do you enjoy teaching? Like, because I know that at least someone in chat is a teacher. So if you do, then why do you love teaching? So my question now is, questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation, it's just a questionably quick question section. So if you've got any questionably quick questions, then get them in now for Chantal. And Jess asks, Chantal, what do you recommend near Limoges? Do you know Limoges?
I don't know Limoges. I'm really sorry. France is a big country, so so I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like asking me, hey Bez, what do you recommend in Twickenham? I mean, I've never been to wait, no, Twickenham is, I've been to Twickenham. What am I saying?
So have I.
But yeah, it's like, yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
Um,
Or even
and
Stoke-on-Trent,
just
I
says
had no
Limoges
idea.
looks rubbish. Is that what you mean?
No, I have no idea.
No, I'm not saying Twickenham is rubbish. No, how dare you? Um, And so my next question is, do you prefer miniatures or meeples?
I think I prefer meeples. Uh,
Mm,
Miniatures, you normally when you get miniatures from a board game, they're not painted. They really look, they don't really
mm,
look good. My boyfriend paints them for me if I need them, but then it takes forever, and I'd rather quickly play right now.
mm. You want to
Yeah.
open the game and have everything be ready for you. You don't want to
Yes.
get into this customization.
No, no. And as I said, one of my favorite games is Unfathomable, because it is a reskin of Battlestar Galactica. So I had to have that game, but it comes with minis, and they're all gray. They're supposed to be Cthulhu-like, and so they need to have this color. So I had to wait for my boyfriend to paint them, and I was so eager to play it because it was like finally they redone that game that I love that I couldn't buy anywhere.
I mean, there is also the ecological factor, of course, but I do want to mention the World of Warcraft board game, which
Hmm.
has them in plastics, but different colors of plastics.
Yes.
So that's kind of a, well, at least you get to two ideas, not just the shape, but also some of
Hmm.
them are different colors. Um, would that change your opinion, or do you? I mean, for me, the best ones are the screen printed meeples, like in Root. If you're familiar with that game.
Yes, yes. Yeah, 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 there is a new game as well, which is like that, which has red and blues. Uh, yeah, it's a bit better. At least you can distinguish better But I don't think it's necessary, to be honest.
Oh, next question: books or podcasts?
Podcast, as I said.
And what was the last one you
read.
listened to?
The last one I listened to was not at all about board games. It was about a debunker, a French debunker
Oh,
that is a teacher as well. He teaches a sort of course. He teaches how to how to present companies in social media, and and it was quite interesting because the exercises he makes his students do are about debunking things.
okay.
So
About like debunking false
and
information.
yes. So it's an exercise for them to write something. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, it's really important in this day and age to be a critical thinker and not just absorb, especially with the dawn of AI. And I saw
absolutely.
something where someone had made an entire trailer using AI. I don't know if you've seen this, of
No.
a Star Wars reboot in the form of a Wes Anderson movie, which actually looks really cool. And
Wow.
I saw it on Twitter because someone said, not going to lie, I would totally watch this. And I watched the trailer and I'm thinking, you know what, I would actually really watch this. It's kind
Okay.
of treating the characters more as, hey, let's, emotional beings, if you know what I mean, rather than just a zap Hollywood
Okay.
effects. But it's obviously not obviously, but there were clues like the voice is not quite human enough and little things about it, but it looks really realistic, like it could have been a real trailer. And if you just see this, I mean, with so many things out in the world, you can just get fooled if you don't stop and actually look into the source. I mean, I've been seeing people quote, I don't know if you're familiar with The Onion, which is a
Yes.
parody news site, and
Yes.
I've seen
Yes.
people quote The Onion
Thinking
thinking
it's
that The
true.
Onion is real, which
Yes.
is ridiculous because obviously with the dawn of, oh my gosh, I think in the past maybe 5 years, global politics has become so ridiculous that The Onion has had to, in order to come back, has had
To
to
go even
go, yes. And it's like, how
extra
ridiculous can
level.
you really be?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's and AI is at the moment you can still see clues like the hands are not perfect or things like that, but it will happen very
Well, I've
soon that
seen
you
some
see
AI art with good solid
it's
hands, and it's
yeah,
like,
and people that draw artists now are probably going to lose their jobs because it's the AI
mm.
is creating all those
Oh, for
drawings
sure.
and
I mean, I
images.
think that automation is going to happen in all sorts of aspects of life. I think that there does still need to be a human behind it to, if nothing else, guide and select what is actually good.
Yes, yeah.
But I think that, yeah, this is where I really wish we had universal basic income, because it shouldn't be a case of, oh my gosh, now this AI is going to take away my ability to just live and pay
Mm-hmm.
for food. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a real travesty that we live in this world where this is
Yes,
a possibility.
agreed. Agreed.
But moving slightly, I want to go back to the podcast about debunking. What is its name, and how complex is the French? Do you think that I could
Uh,
understand it if I listened to it?
No, it's not. No, I think it. As I said, the person is a teacher, so I think he explains quite well. But it's an interview of him. I can find it for you. Let me see if I can find it. It's actually a Canadian podcast, but he's French, so
Oh yeah, the French Canada and
but the interviewer is Canadian, but has a very slight accent. It's very comprehensible. It's called Meta de Choc.
Meet at the
Meta,
shop.
I'll write it down. Meta de Choc. There we go. And
Meta de shop. Okay,
yes,
so I'll put that into the.
and the person she interviewed was called Sylvain Tillon. So because
Thank you
she
very
does
much. And
different
we've
things.
got one more questionably quick question from the audience, where Jess asks, how much cheese is there in all of France, and how much
Oh.
wine, approximately?
There's probably over 200 different type of cheese. Wine, I am not sure. I'm not a wine drinker, but probably as much as there is cheese. Yes, actually, I was in Paris last weekend. I went to a market and there was a stand with so many cheese, and I came back home with 53 euros worth of cheese.
I mean, I have to say, my favorite treat in when I went to Cannes was the croissant d'amande. And I know
Yes,
that you
that's
don't
very
think of
heavy.
Cannes as necessarily a place to have great pastries, but I have to say there was one bakery in just opposite the train station that for me was possibly like the best croissant d'amande that I had anywhere. I mean, it's better than I had in Marseille. It's better than I had in Montpellier, even though like I went to what were the best um yeah bakeries. But to be fair, Montpellier does have much better cheese than Cannes. But
Okay, I have no
but
idea, but okay.
yeah, the croissant d'amande and
That's very heavy, the croissant d'amande. It's, well, I can finish one. It's really a lot of almonds and sugar. It's it's too much for me.
uh, so we the other thing I want to finish off by saying is, would you rather be a pigeon for a day or a shark for a day,
A shark, definitely.
and why?
uh, People don't. I don't think pigeons are very well loved. Okay, sharks are not loved, but they are feared, so they are strong, and they don't care about anybody else. They're on top of the food chain. They do their own thing. Perfect.
I mean, that's not true. Pigeons don't have to eat vomit. That's a bit gross.
Oh God.
But let's move on and to the main topic. And as always, everyone in the comments, please do feel free to comment, ask questions from like follow. And if you're watching after the fact, I do try to reply to all the respectful comments and questions. And if it's during the fact, then we try to pop it up. So yeah, we were talking about teaching board games and how you got really trained up in this in France. And so my question to you is, if someone else is teaching board games, what tips would you give them? What are the main things that you'd say, hey, think about doing this?
Well, you need there's two things you need to know. Obviously, you need to read the manuals, but you also need to try the game before teaching anybody else. Try it with someone else. That's and try to play it in a way that you can try all the different scenarios, because you will get asked questions you didn't think of, and yes, there's a little rule somewhere in the manual, and you'll be like, oh my god, what is that all about again? So And then you have to go through the manual. It doesn't look professional. It looks, it's wasting everybody's time and enjoyment. So just push it to the limit, you know. Just try all the little quirks and just be absolutely prepared.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That step one is understanding it 100%. Obviously, if you are at a stand with someone who knows the game better, do you think that that changes things a little bit? Or not really? Because I mean, if you are pondering on, Thursday or Friday of UK Games Expo, oh, I forgot in this tiebreak, what's the second tiebreak of we said the words at the same time in Wibble and the words are the same length. Bez, what happened? Then I'll be able to tell you it's the one that's first alphabetically. And if two people say exactly the same thing, then just chuck the two cards out the game and deal another two cards. Because at that point you can't do anything. But does that make a difference, or do you feel like you still need to know it 100%?
No, you need to know it 100% because also a lot of times people think they know the game. And then they're like, oh, really? No, that's not how you play it. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure this is how you play it. And then I have to show the rule and say, look, it's written there. And I know exactly where in the rules it says, because it's a common mistake. And they're like, oh, yeah, I never played it that way. And you're like, I'm really sorry, but that is the wrong way to play.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about house rules. I mean, I would say that on a stand at a convention, it's inappropriate to bring in house rules. But how do you think about do you ever bring in house rules or modifications to a game, maybe shortening it or anything when you play it at a club?
No, at the club, no. But I guess in a demo situation, yes, you would have to adapt it so that you get as many people to try the game as possible. So do a short version. A lot of games have a beginner and a more advanced rule or something. So yes, definitely short it. If there's like 10 rounds, make it 3 rounds only or something like that. Yes.
And that's kind of more of an upfront, hey, we're only going to play part of the game because this is all we've got time for.
Yes.
But absolutely. At the club, and one thing I've noticed is step 2, for me, after you know the game and you're able to explain the game and you're able to give like a 5-second explanation, which in the case of my games, if you know the title, then that is your 5-second explanation, which is hopefully quite useful. Because like I say, hey, would you like to play a game about seriously surreal creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises? Well, people know exactly what they're in for. But the next step is trying to connect with the audience, right? I mean, this is what I feel. I don't know if you would agree that the next step is this game the right choice for this person who is playing it?
Actually, yes. And when I demoed in let's say events where there's a pile of games and someone comes and say, what do you recommend? You have to ask question. How many are you? What sort of game do you normally like? How much time do you have? There's a list of questions you need to adapt to the person. You just say, oh, what is your favorite one? Well, I'll just play this one. No. No, it's all about you, what you enjoy.
I've seen at a board game cafe where maybe people's exposure to games is maybe just Trivial Pursuit and Monopoly and maybe 2 other games, and they've literally played nothing, from the past 40 years. They might go into something like drafts or snakes and lattes, and then I've heard this as a question. Would you rather have something that makes you think and then they actually do the little face? Or would you like something that you're just having a bit of a laugh with your friends? And
that's good.
And so that's a really interesting thing, because you're then broadening the thing, and then you're saying, okay, would you like to work together or would you like to compete?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a choose your own adventure where
Exactly.
you've got
Yes.
these people, you're trying to find the best game for them. It
Mm-hmm.
is very different though in a club compared to an expo because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at my stand, I do try to tell everyone the focus is on facilitating fun. I do want it to be fun. And I would, yes, I want people to be reminded that they can buy stuff. But at the same time, I don't want people, I would rather someone doesn't buy rather than someone feels pressured into buying. Do you know what I mean? If
Yes.
someone were to walk away and then feel like, oh, I only bought that because I felt socially awkward and I felt like I had to buy it, then obviously that's not a great situation. But
Mm-hmm.
it is about my games. I mean, it's not about, hey, here's 5 people who are coming up. Let's sit down and find the best perfect game for these people. There is a point where you
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, do you like word games? Do you like party games?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If you don't like, if what you like is economic simulations. I mean, this year I do have a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer, but it's still a bit rambunctious. It's still a bit. So if what you want is turn-based strategic games that you're making deep decisions and then it takes you like an hour or so, I don't have a game for you. And
Yeah.
then it's like, hey, we hope that you enjoy the convention. So it's a slightly different priority of um, in clubs, it feels almost nicer and more magnanimous, where it's, hey, we care about you, we're going to find the perfect game. Whereas that's a convention, it's, we are
Yeah.
going to be
It's
limited
about.
by the smaller catalogue. Do
Mm-hmm.
you find that's ever slightly uncomfortable at a convention where you feel limited and you feel slightly sad that you can't make everybody happy? Do you know what I mean?
No, no, because no, I understand it perfectly. I mean, we all have preferences. There's a lot. I don't like, for example, Euro games. A lot of people love it, and they're like, "What? Your job is to present games and so, and you don't like Euro games?" I'm like, no, I don't enjoy them. But yeah, I understand completely. If it's not your thing, then don't waste your time. I mean, you have limited time in a convention. You have so many games to see. I tried. I hope you discovered something. You never know. So maybe one of your friends would like that. You know,
Mm-mm.
bear it in mind. You might have get a recommendation out of it. So yeah.
I mean, when you run a club, what's your focus there? Let's talk a little bit more about your clubs and events. Because do you try to have a game for everyone? Do you try to have even games that you hate?
Uh, okay.
Because you know that other people will love them, is my point.
Okay. All the games that I bring are games that I enjoy playing, but I have 150 plus board games. However, I also say to people that they can bring their own game, and if they can explain it, then they are welcome to bring their own game and play. And no, I have 2 tables, and then I say, look, this is what I brought today, and I bring at least 10 different kind of games, right? So people can choose, or so you can choose, and I'll explain all the different games and say which one you feel you prefer to try. But there is also this person that brought this Euro game that will take the entire evening. If that's more your thing, by all means.
I mean, I feel like we have slightly different definitions of what a Eurogame is. I feel like when I think of Eurogame, I'm basically think of the European design sensibilities as opposed to the American design sensibilities. That's where, as opposed to like actually modern European design sensibilities, I should say,
Hmm.
as in, to my mind, basically anything I would say 70% of what's been designed in Europe in the past, yeah, let's
Oh,
say
yeah.
20, 30 years is, to my mind, a Euro game. But clearly
Ah,
that's not the
yes.
case for you.
No, Eurogame, it's a strategic game.
But why
Uh,
is Azul not a Eurogame in your opinion?
it's not because it doesn't have multiple ways of winning.
Okay, so
Uh,
when you're talking about a Eurogame, you mean
mhm.
like something like a point salad, like Stefan Feld is quite renowned for?
No, something like Puerto Rico, something Power Grid, something really complex, really, and
Mm-mm.
which has different ways to win, and you can choose to specialize in one path or the other. It's normally a 3 to 4 hours minimum playing time. It's it has it's what you would call a strategy long game. Very
Mm-mm.
yes.
Okay, so like something that's heavy strategy. So we're
Yes.
talking like you would consider terraforming Mars a Eurogame.
Yes.
Would you consider
Yes.
Scythe a Eurogame?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we'll go with that definition for this conversation because I
Okay.
don't think quibbling about definitions is going to
It's
be
fine.
useful. But it's would you call Catan a Eurogame?
It's a simplified Euro game. Actually, Catan was the first board game I ever played that got me into the
Oh
board
wow.
game. So it's a very good introduction. Yes.
I mean, to me, if the way I would describe the games that you're describing is a
Oh yeah.
subset of Euro games, I would just call them heavy Euro games. So,
Okay.
um, but now we kind of understand each other a little bit better, and
Okay.
that's kind of just the joy of language because it's like, hey, it's not that Chantal might not like photosynthesis, for example, to
Oh no, I like it actually.
share a game that I've played a ridiculous amount of, or Planet Defenders, which is on my right hand, is a strategic, you know, let me, yeah, it's this sort of
Ah,
drafting, and then you've got little robots, and uh, but it's like the kind of amount of time investment. It sounds like is the thing that
yeah.
turns you off.
No, it's the fact that it's not very clear. It's not the type of game that you need to play many times until you get into it and you understand how it works. And it's very morally crushing. I find to play it at first because you're never gonna win. There's no chance in hell you're gonna win against someone that that knows the game. It's you, you don't know where you're going basically,
Mm-mm.
and for me it's frustrating. For me it's I prefer games where everybody understands how it works. Maybe it'll take 2 or 3 rounds, but then they enjoy it. They and they have a chance to win, because at the end of the day that's also the aim. Have fun, but also hopefully win. Yeah.
It is always the challenge of games because as a game designer and as a player, I want games. Well, generally, obviously, there are exceptions, but I
Mhm.
generally want games that you can play over and over and over and
Mhm.
over. And
Mhm.
each time you feel like, oh, wow, I'm learning a little bit more. Oh, now I'm thinking a little bit deeper. Or with a speed game, okay, I'm getting a little bit faster. With
Okay.
a story game, I'm coming up with different stories or I'm improving my ability to tell these stories. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you do want it to be accessible and
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
demoralizing for those first
Exactly.
time players. And
Exactly.
I will admit, one of my new games, which has yet to be fully illustrated, but will still hopefully come out at UK Games Expo, which is a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer. There is a danger because hypothetically, if someone bids literally all their money in turn one, which there's nothing in the game saying you cannot do this,
Mhm.
then you will lose the game. If you bid literally all your money, that's just a stupid thing. But I would hope that this then how much strategy do you give people? Because at that kind of thing, for a playtest, I just let people play it.
Obviously.
And I actually had one playtest where someone made some terrible moves and got them out of the game. That's the only time I saw someone knocked out the game. And then afterwards they said, yes, I thought I was going to be knocked out the game. I just wanted to see if I could ruin it for everyone else. I wouldn't do that in a real game. But because it was a playtest, I'm hoping that's vaguely useful for you. And then I thought to myself, and I thought, okay, what can I do to stop that? The only way that I can think I can do is maybe give a little bit of hint and remind people, by the way, this is, do not bid more than this amount for this card. This is really terrible. And conversely, bid up, definitely bid at least this amount for this card because you can trade it in for money. So why wouldn't you? And as a demonstrator, do you feel like it's a good idea to make sure people don't lose on the first couple of turns, to give them some advice just to get them going?
I would say so, yes, because you want them to enjoy the game. So absolutely. And I actually, yeah, as a playtest, no, you need to see what works and what doesn't work, so it makes sense. But if you want to hook someone to your game, you need to direct them a little bit at first, but explaining the logic behind it. You know, not just say don't do this, but if you can absolutely do that, but if you do that, this might happen because
You might have no
such and
money for the
such.
rest of the game.
Exactly. You know, but by all means try if you feel like this is the way you want to play it. Yeah.
How do you balance that? Because obviously there are some folk who feel like any strategy is taking away their fun of the game and they would rather just lose. Do you kind of preface this or I mean, how do you check that you aren't giving unwanted strategy? Do you know what I mean?
I would just give one or twice or two advice, but not all the advice in the world. Then say, this is how maybe you would like to think, but then after that, I would just leave them to their own device. It's just a suggestion. I would just, that's how I would approach it.
I have to admit, there was one game that I played at Spiel 2022, and the only reason that I thought about it after the demo was because it was part of the cards. I don't know if you saw these cards for Similo, for the Horrible Guild, and then they had lots of board games listed on it. And then I was telling Alan and Charlie how terrible this game was.
I know
And then I
Similo,
felt like,
yeah.
okay, the first players basically got, and then as I was talking, but you can only wait a minute. We could have rotated all our pieces 90 degrees, and none of us fought to do that. I complained like we were all tired, but these are these 3D shapes, and for whatever reason, we were all putting it this way when we could have put it. And I know that sounds really idiotic, but none of us fought to do that, and so it was a really super boring game. Whereas I feel like at some point, the demonstrator, if they had said, by the way, do you mind if I give you some advice? You can actually turn your thing. Remember, it's not just that you can turn it this way around, you can also turn it that way around.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes when it's a 3D shape, we still think of things in 2 dimensions. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like in conventions, and I've been to a lot of conventions, they are very different ways of demonstrating. If they have a lot of tables and not a lot of demonstrators, they would just go, this is how you play, and leave you to your own device. And then that is quite frustrating. And then you're like, but how do we proceed? Where do we do that? And then there's no one to tell you. I'd rather have the person staying with you and making sure that they understand the game before moving on to another demo. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been in situations where I sort of say, "Hey, just to check you all understand the
Mm-hmm.
game, so you've played like
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 rounds of this
Mm-hmm.
10-round game," and then I just leave them at that table
Yeah,
because
yes, of
maybe
course. You
and then
leave
I
them.
say, "By the way, if you need me, I'll just be
Ex-
over there." Or sometimes
yeah,
it's just a case of I need a bite to eat, and I say,
yeah,
"If you
yes.
need me, I'm just going to get a bite to eat, but I'll be right back."
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a quick, like, 2-minute break just to have a drink, get,
Uh-huh.
maybe, I don't know, some oat cakes or whatever. I find oat cakes really good to give me sustenance. I mean, they're not the most exciting thing, but they are at least something that fills me up, and I feel good about them because some things are too fatty, and then afterwards I kind of feel bloated. But oat cakes, it's like relatively healthy.
Yes, I remember we had hotcakes at your stand, and I did binge on them as well.
I mean, I'm starting to get into also corn cakes, if you know them, and they're
The
basically like
white ones? No.
they're like rice cakes, but
Ah,
made
okay.
out of corn.
Oh, okay. No, never tried that.
Um, but yes, we'll get some of them probably. I
Okay.
still need to work, but we have been talking for basically an hour at this point, and I do want to check in with you how you're doing for time, because I would like to wrap up, but at the same time, what else would, for those people who are thinking of starting a games club online
Hmm.
or in person or demoing for other companies, let's go through those three things. But what are some tips that you would give them other than do it, it's fun?
Uh, okay. If you want to do it, it's because you love games, and you need to be prepared to to you need to put preparation into it. You cannot just go in and say, here's a game, let's play it, and then go through the manual and go, yeah, that's yeah, no. Prepare yourself. You know, the games that you're going to demo, know them very well. I mean, even if you have, there are videos online also of a playthrough if you have no one to play the games with before or something like that. Be patient and be prepared to be frustrated. Some people, you do explain the rules, but then they forget, and then they're like, "Oh, but you never told me that." Yes, I did, but
And
okay. But
the
it's
truth is that
you,
you can't really just say, yes, I did, because then
no,
that's
you
the wrong
can't.
thing. You've got to kind of bite your tongue.
Yes. Just be aware that, in my club, I play the games with the people, but if you leave them to be accessible, be ready to help, and yeah, and check on them, make sure that they understood, that they don't, that they enjoy it, and yeah, that's my advice.
And if you're making a games club, there's also one thing that we haven't really gotten into, which is finding the people and advertising that.
Uh-huh.
And do you have any things that you found particularly helpful? Because it's all well and good if I say to everyone, hey, everyone in the world is welcome to join me at Royal Festival Hall on Wednesdays, let's imagine. And we will sit down and we will play games together, and they are all
Hmm.
going to be published games. So it's not for designers to come and, but it's going to be something where we're playing, social and whatever. We're
Hmm.
playing these games, and I just want to play games with people on when. But how can I make sure that people actually turn up?
Okay, it's so you need some kind of online social media, and they are different per countries. Uh, in France, I would use something called On va sortir. There's no equivalent anywhere else. Uh, in the Netherlands and in the UK, actually, I think Meetup is probably the best tool. UKGE, I attended a talk about that from Hertfordshire Board Games,
Oh
and
yes,
that's
Adam.
that's the tool they also use. that's the best tool to advertise. You will have to pay as an organizer, every 6 months. It's not that much, but it's you need to invest a little bit, but it does touch a lot of people. Also have another social media presence, like I have a group on Facebook. I have a Discord also server for online events, stuff like that. WhatsApp group when I say, oh, by the way, I'm organizing this at this time. But yeah, I started with Meetup. That's how I found the people.
I think it's really interesting how much a WhatsApp group can help, because we started a WhatsApp group for the playtesting group about, I'm going to say, less than a year ago for sure. And, it was going well before the pandemic. It got honestly to the point where David Brain was saying, we've got too many people. We have to start turning away people because it's a public space and we only have so many tables. We can't have like 30 people come and then that's just being antisocial, because this is a free space for other people to use and there are other people wanting to use it for their groups. And obviously, or board games, we typically want to have maybe 4 people to a table. We can't have like 10 people all around one table, and yeah, so we would then be expanding. So frankly, once we I would say that we currently have a limit of 15, I want to say, and which does feel quite low, but because it's in a place where you come in and then you don't need to pay anything, but we don't want to overwhelm the thing. And it's like, that's enough that if all those people came and everyone was a designer, then we would have, I think, like 5 tables of free player games going on potentially, which is a lot because board gamers kind of need to spread out. And so anyway, the WhatsApp, since the pandemic, obviously at the start it was just a few of us and then it grew up again, and we have hit the limits a couple of times. But what the WhatsApp group has done is the WhatsApp group has allowed us to kind of share pictures more easily, see what everyone else has done, and have this easier method of communication. Because on Meetup, you have to actively go there to get the information. Whereas on WhatsApp, you can say, hey, by the way, I really love that thing that you've done. And now we've even got 2 WhatsApp groups for the Friday Daytime Play, well, technically free. So one is just for the organizers, so we can give each other things. One is for anyone who wants to come or has been, and that WhatsApp group is public, so everyone can have access to it. And then the other one is for general chat, but you have to have been to at least one of the events. And then we're like, okay, we know who this person is. They're a real human. They're clearly not going to spam. And then we've got, some people who are sadly no longer in the UK, like Ricky Tata, who made, Coup, and is like a wonderful designer. But then they're like, oh, I loved these Friday Daytime playtests, and we don't have anything like that in New York. And saying, and because daytime is different to evening, but then when we say, oh, by the way, I'm then the general chat, we might be sharing sell sheets and getting advice of each other or sharing initial ideas and maybe occasionally chatting about, oh, by the way, this is this really cool video that I saw about board games. And of course, we're all interested in design. And so we get a little bit more technical than I would expect in a casual games group. I mean, if I were making a games group just for playing games, I wouldn't be sharing Richard Garfield's talk about skill versus luck, which is exactly the kind of thing that I would share in the designer group, saying, oh yeah, Richard, obviously, you know Richard Garfield, and this is like this high level talk about the theory of how luck and skill are not one continuum, but a 2-dimensional axis, which is a really great talk if you've not heard it. But it's these WhatsApp groups really let us learn about each other more as individuals. But at the same time, I'm aware that there are some people who maybe don't want to share too much, and that's totally fine to have
Mhm.
them be on the outskirts and be like, yeah, I just like hearing about stuff. And yeah, do you find that you need to have one place for organizing and then one place for more general chats? Do you know what I mean? And
Yes, and actually, it's also a place where other people can organize their own ad hoc events,
mm, mm,
and also to go together to a convention, for
mm,
example. I said,
mm.
well, there's this convention that day in that place. Anyone wants to come, we can take the same train together and or share the drive or whatever. So yes, absolutely. It's
That's brilliant. And it sounds like it's also about deepening those bonds and
mhm,
saying, hey, what do we want to do? But
yeah.
I mean, it does make me wonder if maybe I should have two groups for the Facebook UK Games Expo chats group. Like maybe one for being like, hey, we're just going. Do people want to chat about, hey, organizing stuff if you want to stay friends, and one for, hey, this is stuff that everyone is kind of discussing about these games to be demoed or questions
Mm,
about these things and more
mhm,
organizational stuff. I
mhm.
don't know. What do you think? Do you think that I should start a second Facebook group, or is that totally unnecessary? It feels slightly unnecessary.
Uh, I personally wouldn't have that need, but the problem is, do you have the time, the energy to run two groups?
Mm,
It's a lot of work at the end of the day.
mm, mm, mm.
So I don't know.
I think this can be a nice stopping off point where we summarize and say ultimately all of this is a joy to do, but it is also taking energy.
Yeah,
And the nice
takes
thing
time.
about being on a stand at a convention is you learn those games and then you enjoy it for that weekend, but you don't have to do too much of the organizational stuff other than obviously you're responsible for getting yourself to the place. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not going to babysit you and
Hmm.
get you to Birmingham. But
Hmm.
beyond that, then it's your kind of, yeah, you don't have to worry about, are people going to turn up? Are they going? Whereas starting a game group, starting something like that is
Yes.
a much bigger responsibility.
Yeah, it's and people just say they will come and they don't come, and yeah, there's a lot of that.
Jess says, let's summarize for summer, even though London is cold and France is hot, and that's why people go there. I mean, I think the north of France is probably the same temperature basically
Well,
as
the
Britain.
Netherlands is not very warm. I can tell you that. So yeah, yeah.
But at this point, I've asked you lots of questions, Chantal. Is there a question that you would like to ask me as the question of the day? Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day.
That's yeah. I don't know. uh, I it seems you have a lot of games that you do. You create games like every week. Is that how you say that, or you have ideas for how many games?
Um,
It's hard to keep up.
are you asking how often I make a new game, basically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, when I go to Friday daytime playtesting, I
yeah.
like to have um something that's worth testing, and that might be
Hmm.
an update of something or some new levels for something. So I really love Questable, which is designed by Kirsten Lunde for the L deck, because we've been working together on all these levels, and we've made, I think, 40 levels so far, which I'm really proud of. And there's going to be 50 levels. So once we've done 50 levels, we'll kind of be, getting rid of some levels, improving them, and just changing them. But I've got 40 levels that were like, yeah, this is a really good starting point, and a whole bunch that were like, yeah, this is really good. But I don't make a brand new game every week. But sometimes I do make a thing just being like, you know what? This is going to be terrible, but why is it terrible? Like last week, when I made a new game which didn't require me to make any components, which is always nice because if I can just use numbers and if I can just use, okay, here's some cubes, the cubes represent money, and here's
Mhm.
some colorful triangles from a different game that I already have, and I'm just keeping that game because it's really good for prototyping. There are 6 colors of triangles in this game, and these represent the different stocks and shares that you can have.
Mhm.
Now, okay, what's the simplest game and why is that terrible? And then I played it and it was, a solid 2 out of 10. If it had been like released on Board Game Geek, like it would be not a good game. But like based on that, like there was like ideas there, and then like we played it again and it was like a solid 4 out of 10, let's say, maybe 3.5. Let's be slightly harsh. And then but then like I really thought through it and was like, okay, there's this bit that doesn't quite gel for people, but maybe I should move away from the auction. And I've accidentally kind of found this bit, which is kind of new by making this thing that I thought would probably be terrible. And I warned everyone this is going to be a crash and burn. But then when I came back yesterday, David Brain said, oh, I hate Bez because Bez keeps coming with these simple games that work really well, and I wish that I could do that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a really nice thing to hear. And someone said, "Oh, this is basically like modern arts with all the joy of that, but simpler." And um, sometimes, like I go months without making a new thing, and that's when it's kind of like, okay, let's refine something, let's replay it
Okay.
at different player counts. But for me, I creating stuff is one of the main joys I have in my life. And that
Mhm.
initial ideation, that initial, I don't know if this is going to work or not, let's find out. That initial spark is for me where the real joy is. And if I'm being honest, the final 30%, by which I mean the production and even the illustration, that's a lot more stressful and boring
Ah,
and irritating. And yeah.
okay.
Um, and just have lots of that. He says, learn that excuse-moi is not an appropriate introduction in French. It's bonjour. Can you corroborate?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Jess says, ask how long is Bez's hair?
Oh
I
wow.
am willing to tell you it is this long.
Oh wow.
So this is my belly button here, and if I lean my head back, this is my nipple here, and this is my belly button. So you can get an idea.
Oh my god. What?
And am I a simple soul with simple games?
Oh my god.
Um, to some degree, yes. I mean, I want it to be accessible. I want it to be something that people have joy with, and I do find that if I'm being honest, I do like things that are stripped back to their simplest point. Like I love No Thanks, and I love. Have you played No Thanks? And
Yes.
For Sale.
Yes.
I just think that these are
Yes.
such wonderful games.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, apparently Brits use excuse moi. I haven't
Yeah,
heard.
but excuse-moi is not good because if you don't know the person, you should say excusez-moi first of all. Excuse-moi is very familiar. Yes, you could if you want to ask a question, someone has you back to you and you go excusez-moi, like in the store, excusez-moi, where is sugar? Then you can
Mm-mm.
say that. But if you want to
Où est
say
la sucre?
yeah,
Or is it le sucre?
le sucre,
Le sucre. Okay.
then yes, you can use that. But normally, yeah, you say bonjour. In other cases,
Oh, I think what Jess is saying is that British people just on the train says, like maybe some British people who are quite formal, like just say, "Hey, excuse me, how are you?" Like for
ah,
British
no, no,
people,
no, no,
maybe that's a group. But
no,
I think that if people are
not in
doing
that
that, that's out
case.
of fashion.
No,
I wouldn't. I would feel
just say
weird if
bonjour.
someone
Yeah.
introduced them as I was walking down the But yeah, you know what? Yeah, actually, people who are asking for money for charities on the streets, they do sometimes say, "Excuse me." But I think even now, when they say hello, it's more of an invitation to chat. But I do frequently say, "I'm sorry, I can't afford to
Yeah, it's
contribute."
more when you want to ask something, or if you want to ask for directions, or where's the sugar, things like that. Yeah, yes,
So that's fine,
but
apparently. Just say "excusez-moi," not
yes,
"excuse-moi," "excusez-moi."
yeah. No, you can start by excusez-moi, but for certain cases, yes.
And how do you say vous ai en prie?
Je vous en prie.
Oh, je vous en prie.
Yes.
There we go. Je vous en prie. Yes.
Yeah, but that's very old-fashioned. But yeah,
Oh, do
you
you
can
not
say
say you're
that.
welcome in French?
De
How would
rien. That's
how
what
would
we
you
say.
how would
De
you
rien.
oh you would just say de rien.
De rien. Yes.
Okay. De rien, Jessica. But for now, over to you. What are you up to? You can share what's if you want to. I am going to yeah, you know what? I'm going to make sure that first of all I get myself showered, and you know that will be a nice way to start the day. And then get outside, and yeah, there are some things that I need to finish off for games that are going to be at UK Games Expo. That is definitely a priority. And I've said to some people that I just cannot think about anything except for right now and after UK Games Expo. Also, I do potentially have someone moving in tomorrow night,
Oh,
which I do have to do preparation for. The idea is that this will be someone who helps me just manage stuff around the place. And when it comes to packing up, 400 games, when I say 400 games, I mean 400 parcels of 1,600 games, then, they will be helping me with that because it is a big task. And
oh, yeah.
frankly, it's not just about multiplying the energy, multiplying the workload, dividing the workload, I should say. It's also about just having another person at the table doing what you're doing. It makes it, for me, a much easier task. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, but yes, it's more motivation for sure.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yes.
It's kind of like, hey, we're in this together. We're doing the thing.
Yeah.
So, what are you up to? Is there something that you want to do, something that you need to do? Please, I promise I
I
share.
Yes, I need to. So on Thursday, I have an online board game session on Board Game Arena, and as for every time I do an event, I take screenshot or pictures, and then I do a little summary of what happened. And I still haven't done it, so I guess I have to do that today. Doing some laundry, boring stuff, cooking. But apart from that, I'm just gonna chill and probably watch a show or something. That's
That
it.
sounds like a nice, relaxing day. I hope you have a wonderful time. And
Thanks.
Jess wants everyone to know that she also enjoyed sitting at my table, playing games,
Ah.
and eating fish fingers. So I hope that you have a wonderful day chilling, whether you're getting ready to go to France or whether you're watching Netflix shows or whether you're trying to crack on with illustrations. Maybe you want to draw a cat. And at this point, I am going to say to everyone that if you want to check out stuffbybez.com/discord, there is a channel specifically for cat pictures.
Ah.
And if you want, I encourage everyone who just, if you're like, you know what, I feel like I need a quick thing to do, and you've got, there it is, stuffbybez.com/discord. It will redirect you to the Discord invite, and then just draw a bad drawing of a cat. Just like take literally 2 minutes to draw the best cat that you can draw in 2 minutes. However bad it is, share the picture, and then we'll all compliment it.
Okay.
Or at least I will. And at this point, I'll recap and wrap up before we finish up. So we talked about meeting in London, about Spiel, about the glory of Azul's summer pavilion, about playtesting, how games are social and fun and they relieve depression. You get to speak to other folk and you're thinking at the same time. And teaching, it's about building confidence and having that sense of achievement, seeing their smiling faces, imagining the fun that they will have if they take the game away, and getting to meet so many other people. We talked about minis and how sometimes they can just be a lot of grey until you spend the time actually painting them. We talked briefly about some fan, unfathomable and being like, I want to play this. We talked about AI, we talked about Metal Shock and Sylvantion. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sylvantion, yeah.
Sylvantion. And we talked about preferring to be a shark because it's better to be at least feared than hated. We talked about if you want to demo stuff or teach stuff, make sure that you know the thing before, like know the game, play it, make sure you know all the scenarios and edge cases so you don't need to read the rules. But then step two is asking, is this game for this person in front of me? What game is the best fit for this person? And sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, if you come to my club and you really want to play 4-hour epic games, you have to bring your own, and that's okay. You have to choose who you're catering for, and games are, such a multifaceted things. I mean, you're not running murder mysteries unless you are, in which case, good on you, because those are also lovely. We talked about recommendations, thinking about the time, the number of people, focusing on whether you focus on the audience in a games club or the catalog for a publisher. We talked about what you define as a Euro game, which for Chantal, it seems to be what I would define as a heavy Euro game, which for we talked about the time investment and the lack of clarity that goes into those heavy Euro games. We talked about giving strategic advice, making sure that people don't have a terrible first game experience, and not telling them everything to do, but just saying, hey, these are some things that you could do. And the truth is that in photosynthesis, I'm very confident that the first move, there's only one reasonable possibility. And I would tell someone that, and then I would say, for the second move, there's, in my opinion, about 5 reasonable choices, and everything else is a bad choice. But yeah, then after the third, then the third depends on what the second choice was and so forth. And that's when it kind of becomes more and more interesting. But if you're going to demo stuff, like, do it because you love the games. Make sure to prepare with videos or playthroughs, and be prepared for some people to be annoying and just forget stuff and say, you never told us that. Or what? Be accessible, be ready to help. Have some online social media presence if you're setting up a club, and maybe have a WhatsApp group to deepen the bonds. And it's been an absolutely delightful chat. And I'm just
Thanks for
catching
having
up
me.
with
That was fun.
the chats now. Yes, it is the king's coronation today,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have, you know what? I might make it a mission to go to a WH Smith because I still haven't had any of the coronation crisps, because these are just, it's kind of like Easter where these special food items only happen for today. I did have I've already had like the special coronation chicken sandwiches from Tesco, the coronation prawn sandwiches from Tesco, the King's coronation chicken from Lidl, which was very nice, but it was honestly too much for me. Like if I'd had one or two other people, it would have been enough. But I overate last night. I'm not going to lie. But yes, I want to definitely go to WH Smith and get some King's coronation crisps,
Okay.
because I mean, I'm not a
A
royalist,
unique.
but I
Yes.
like new tastes.
Mhm.
Jess says French people might not be into that because they had a revolution. This does not necessarily affect. That's not necessarily my views. Um,
Well, I am also British, so your king is my king as well, even though I'm French.
Bring your own blooming game. Coronation chicken crisps. Seems you need a coronation chicken crisps party. I mean, no, I'm happy having the crisps on my own. I mean, well, if someone wants to join me, then yeah. But anyway, at this point, I'm going to say, please share, spread the word. Thank you very much, everyone. And
Thank
as I've
you.
said, these are all my links, stuff by Bez in all of the places. and stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow I need to double check with Bruce H. Vogue to see if they can still chat tomorrow, because they have had COVID. And if they and it is a very early start for them because they live in the USA. So I totally understand if they can't join. If they can't, I'll probably do some Board Game Arena playthroughs, I guess. Maybe look at some Kickstarters. Monday is with Matthew Dunstan, the designer. Will be playing one of their games, getting into a bit of a deep dive. Tuesday is with Andy Beardsley, another designer who does lots of stuff. 10th is with Jess Mederingham. Then it's with Jakob David Yaskov, who's best known for Fog of Love. And then I will be going to the Here for Games Con in Hereford. Speaking of someone who does lovely stuff. And if you want to check out the board gaming and RPG meetup group, where do you need to be to join this group, to actually join it in real life?
You can join it online. Obviously, if you don't live in The Hague, you might not be able to attend the one on Monday, but on Thursday, you can totally join my BGA sessions. So
okay,
just create an account and meet up and join the group. That's it.
And so if you need to be based in The Hague or at least be visiting The Hague, or
for the Monday,
for the Mondays. But
yes, but on Thursday it's online.
But then the online thing for Thursdays is just, hey, anyone who seems cool, anyone who's interested in games. And so if Jess is in France or in Thailand, then what time is the first, or if I'm in the UK?
In the UK would be 6 o'clock, but we go on until 10 or 9, so you can join anytime.
Okay, so it's maybe 3 or 4 hours. And you play a lot of different games, presumably. So if you join in a little bit late or have to leave a little bit early, that's totally fine.
That's totally fine.
Okay. Jess says, I'm going to dye my hair now so my school friends think I'm still blonde. Is it still starting to grow grey? Is that what you're saying? But do you have anything left to say at this point, Chantal?
No, I'm looking forward to go to UKGE again. It'll be now I know what to expect, so and I'll hopefully be even more useful. But I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it, and
I really enjoyed it. So.
Have I already sent you an L deck, like Wibble + deck?
Don't think so, no.
Oh, I didn't. That's not good. I should have. I do apologize.
You can.
I can't.
You know where to send it to, and I'll get it.
Yes. But for now, I'm going to say lots of love to everyone, and I am waiting on a big bunch of. Well, I should be getting 200 envelopes maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wow.
So for now, lots of love. And the only thing left to say is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Blue, blue, bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye.
Bye.